Whoa, welcome back everyone to Let It Cook. How's it going, Harold?
Excellent. Happy Friday. So
Happy
good.
Friday.
Such
I
a good
cannot
release
wait.
week.
I can't wait this week. Big week. So many things happening. But yeah, I can't wait for the weekend. You got any fun plans besides doing some vibe code?
Oh yeah, we got some house building stuff. We removed a corner in the house, which is very vibey. And now we gotta redo lots of that stuff. It's like, oh wait, where did the wall go? Where did the floor go? So we gotta there's work to be done.
Vibe design.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, that's great. I got a conference in Spain. We're heading over to .NET Conf Spain. So we'll be over in Madrid. Talking some MCP, which is very exciting, and showing off some new agent features. Super exciting as well. Yeah, and I got sweet playwright demos. So many good things, Harold. And if you're brand new to the channel, don't forget to like, subscribe, do all the things, ring those notification bells. We're here every single week, every Friday. We do some live vibe coding, have some amazing community members on. Harold, you reached out to me because I'm a sponsor of this project on GitHub, and you've been trying to contribute to it. And we have Cameron Cooke coming on in a little bit here, and not just because his last name's Cook, and I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce it. There is an E at the end, so I'll have to ask Cameron. I can see him; he's laughing, he's chuckling, and we decided to match today. We're having him come on because he built the XcodeBuild MCP, which Pierce showed a little bit, but why don't have the creator of the tools that we love on the show? And that was your idea. So I reached out to Cameron. He's like, yeah, let's do this. So I'm excited to have him on.
That's cool. Yeah, I've been using it. I'm like, everybody's doing iOS apps, got to try it out. And in vscode, imagine how nice it is to build Xcode iOS apps just in your phone. The scenario pops up, and like Xcode MCP just does its magic of making it work. You don't care about the commands. It's just like, okay, I'm gonna preview the app. I guess like one of these, like when people show off MCP and show off Blender and show off all the other stuff that just works magically, Xcode, I think, is right in that wow moment.
Yeah, I'm super excited about it. And we got some chat going. Let me know where y'all coming from Africa, a pro of Africa, Uganda. Awesome. And yes, Burke and Pierce are on holiday, so you have to put up with me and Harold. But Burke will be back next week with possibly Pierce. I'll be out, so we shall see. Now, we just launched a 101. Harold, there's a big release, and there was a whole a day that Olivia had talking about a whole bunch of MCP and integration and chat. Did you present like 2 days ago?
I'm not sure it's called a keynote. I was in the first session. It's called a keynote. We actually got, which is really cool, David from Anthropic, who co-founded MCP, kind of created who sparked everything. He came on the show. So if you watch the recording, we do a little interview, and then I think a big part of it is because we shipped all the bits, all the full spec of MCP. So he was happy to kind of join and celebrate it with us and talk about why it matters and what you can build with it and how to get started. So that was a nice half an hour intro. There's actually less than an intro to MCP as we like a deep dive because we got the co-creator on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was there.
I figured I'd power demo these really quick, and then we'll bring Cameron on. How does that sound? All right, let's do it. Okay, so first, you got to always get those sweet release notes. Help. They're here somewhere. Show release notes. The release notes are super good. Like if you dive through this stuff, I mean, there's so much goodies in here. You just need to read all of them. But yes, people may know, Harold, about tools in MCPs, which you're used to. You come down this little tool icon. You got all these tools. Like here, I got 70. So I got the built-in ones. I got a GitHub one. I got my Monkey server. I got a Playwright server. I got a Perplexity server. I got a notification server. I got a contact server. I got all the servers. I got all the tools. And now whenever I'm talking to my models with Copilot and VS Code, bingo bango, it can call these tools, provide additional context. But I always give talks, Harold, on MCP, and I never talk about prompts, resources, and sampling because no one has really implemented that. Like the SDKs have them, but no one's really implemented them in clients like VS Code, but now they're there. So all of them are there. What are prompts, Harold? What are prompts?
What are prompts? In the early days, of GitHub Copilot, we already had these slash commands like /fix and /explain, like these quick access things. I just want to fix a bug. I don't want to go full natural language, like please fix the bug and verify it works. Like look at my errors, right? And there's still some of those out there. And when we now have customizable prompt files that the user can do, so you can add your own things and make it kind of easy. And prompts already actually happened in MCP before we even did those user prompts in the early specs. And they're kind of this out of the box, how can I do a nice one-shot task with this MCP? And that could be combining tools. That could be giving a tour of the MCP, right? There could be a setup. Maybe like you want to run the Xcode MCP, but we don't even have anything Xcode set up locally. Like what if there's a prompt that could run all the terminal commands to do like the Xcode select command that you have to run all these archaic things. It's like, why does Xcode not work? And you could have a prompt doing that. So that's, I think, where prompts in MCP land come from.
Wow, that's almost kind of like if I was like running like a command line. I was like, check install or whatever, right? And it's like running through all this stuff and do stuff. And we have prompt files in it. So here's like my playwright one, right? And it has like these steps that it's doing, and it's talking about what to do. Well, we now have prompt support, and I actually have a server, a Monkey MCP server. It's the de facto MCP server to MCP servers, written in C# because I'm a C# developer. And now I have prompts. Look, I got prompts here, and I have this MCP monkey over here. So if you do / there's 2 prompts. I have a get monkey prompt and a get monkeys prompt. Now, what this does is just returns the prompt back to us. So for example, if I say get monkeys, like it's returning that in line, just kind of as if I was into this prompt and I hit the run button, right? It's just going to send that prompt over. So now I can go and then run this prompt, and then it's going to hopefully call my tool. Let's see what's doing. There we go. Perfect. Get monkeys. And then here, I'm like you said, I'm actually kind of giving it the context, and I'm telling it to organize them by name and put them in a table. So it's kind of like a specialized, like instead of just say get monkeys, I'm actually giving it some context, like you're saying. I know it's a little bit of a convoluted example, but it's there. You know what I mean? As a sample. And then also, though, check this out. If I do get monkey, I can also pass in parameters. Ooh. So I could do baboon, and then enter that, and then it goes ahead and fills it out, right? And then I can send that off. Yeah. So I wanted to show it out.
Do you want to make getting a specific monkey easier? So one, we can talk about resources later, and we're going to talk about it. But one also, that little autocomplete field you had, the quick pick, there's actually a API in MCP called completions, which lets you actually make that an actual quick pick list with all the options, and you type it in. And that's actually what you see in the GitHub server. We've been working closely with the GitHub MCP server. We'll probably touch on that later, Don, making that really cool. And that's actually the completions you see there in the resource picker that actually auto-completes your org and your username when you pick up a repository. So all of these things have had there. What's important, like all of this is like bi-directional, right? The MCP server doesn't just use a prompt, put it into the field. Actually, the MCP server says, here's a prompt I can give you. And then you pick it, and then you actually, the client knows which fields to fill in, and then sends it back to the MCP server. So on the MCP server, you can think about like, I can actually dynamically, I can build a completely different prompt based on what the user tells me, and really adapt, not just like fill in some little fields, but be really dynamic. Right?
That's cool. Yeah, and you got to definitely check out the release notes, because the release notes are great when you tap on this. This is a really cool one with the Gispad MCP server, like creating prompts, calling prompts, running commands on it as well. And you mentioned resources, and I actually think that this is a great little sample video, which is you hit the add context button and you say MCP resources, and then this basically is Gispad is giving you 2 things. There's templated, so here you can actually pass it, and then just like kind of direct resources. So it's like, here's all your GIS. So actually I have an MCP resource, not my Perplexity tokens. Maybe I don't have it. I guess I would need to enter my tokens. Oh, dang. Browse. Oh, okay. Browse resources for the specific one. Whew, perfect. I was not want to enter my tokens live, which we'll talk about. So here I have just the resource template here. So get monkeys. So I don't have the list of monkeys. That's what I want to add next, Harald. But for example, I could say baboon, and then it's going to give me this back, and it would give it to me in the chat basically if it was coming from there. So it's going to return that automatically for me, and then it would apply it. So now I could apply this resource here directly. And then I could say,
Yeah.
summarize this monkey for me. Right.
Yeah,
and then
right.
it's
And now you no longer have to say like, please fetch baboon and then talk
yes.
about it. You can just like, this is baboon. I want to do stuff with baboon. Like
Exactly.
that explicitness. But also having monkey open, and now what VS Code does is in other system subscriptions that the MCP user can update these resources. So when baboon changes, you might actually see things popping up. Baboon might have an image that pops in. Like these are all like they can be binaries, there can be other stuff, there can be playwright screenshot. So resources are really interesting to figure out how can I hand stuff not just to the LM but to the user to look at and read.
Yeah, that's super cool. It really. I know we have a lot of privacy, so I know it doesn't like to show images, but sometimes it does. There is sampling. Do you want? I don't have any sampling demo. Do you want to talk about sampling really quick? Because I couldn't even really give you a good TLDR.
Yeah, it's
sampling.
It's a lot of fun. So I mean, my go-to demo, which is very non-real world, is showing it off in Mud MCP. We need to get that link in here. It's such a fun MCP to explain different concepts. And Mud MCP is an adventure game. And what the Ernie just created, he actually added that you can talk to characters in the game, and he uses sampling to generate, using AI, what he wants to talk about, the NPCs talk about. So sampling basically allows you to send the request from the server, which otherwise would need its own API key to access OpenAI or whatever.
Wow.
But it can actually ask the client, hey, I have an LM request? Can you run this against a model? Maybe you can even pick the model. These are many tokens, and it just runs it. The client asks the user, can the server run LM request? And you get the response back. And you cannot just do that doing tool calls. You can do it at any time. So Baboon might be updating, and Baboon might have a fun day, and you want to like summarize that fun day and all the things Baboon did in his free time, and you can summarize that into like an actual like short update for the day for Baboon. So that's the next extension of Monkey MCP, the Monkey Diary powered by sampling.
I'm in. I'm totally going to do that. Oh, wow. Good. That's amazing. Perfect. Now, because I was coding up my Monkey MCP server last night at 1 a.m, and I was like, okay, I don't have time to do sampling, but now I have the great idea. I got one more thing I want to show off here. Is that now we have a new authentication workflow. And if you see here, the GitHub MCP is running inside of a container with Docker, and it's using this personal access token. I don't know about you, Harald. I'm not a fan of emailing myself my personal access tokens so I don't forget them, or pulling them from something, or trying to remember where they're at. Like obviously, maybe I'll put it in a system wide, but I'm on like 4 machines. I got 2 Mac machines, 3 Windows machines. I'm traveling all over the place. I got to pass these pats all over the place. But let's go ahead and just delete this. What if I'm just going to delete it. I'm going to delete it, and I'm going to delete my input here, which is nice and safe, which is nice. And let's do this. If I do MCP, and then I'm going to reset my cache tools. And hopefully, if I go here, we shouldn't see any more GitHub stuff. So it's all gone. So let's go ahead and configure this. I'm going to go and open the documentation for the GitHub MCP server. And now there is remote GitHub MCP server support with authentication flow using the latest one. So I can just copy this URL. I don't even need this other stuff. It knows. It's smart. So I'm going to come in here, say add MCP, HTTP, paste it in. Wow. I'm going to say GitHub MCP, enter. And now it's going to start running it. And now it's going to say, oh, it wants to authenticate with GitHub. That sounds good. Now it's going to log me in. I'm going to do this off screen in case it shows where I live. And that would not be good. But it's just going to do an authentication flow the first time. The second time, it actually does a nice little drop down pop up, which is really cool as well. And then it's running. And then there it is, my GitHub MCP. Wow.
Nice.
I could say, show me open issues on James Montemagno / Monkey MCP. I'm in Octopets right now, so I'm in some other one. Bam. There it is.
Runs. Beautiful. Yeah. And also if you go into the account menu in VS Code now, that should be that one. So if you click on your GitHub account, it shows trusted MCP servers. So just like extension, you can just, if you want why to authenticate this, you can just kick it out again.
Get out of here. That's cool. Yeah. So I hope every remote MCP does that. Or in this case, what's nice is like Perplexity could have that remote MCP server and then get rid of the container. If I can run less containers on my machine, Harald, that would be great.
I think I don't know doing build. Like we were on stage about MCP, we're at the booth about MCP, and like the number one question everybody asked was authentication. Like, when's it coming? And if people check out the VS Code blog, we actually talk about it as well. So it's in the release notes. We talk about that we now support the latest, not just the latest, the draft spec. We're hoping that the spec gets a new cut, but it's coming. There would have been the non-draft spec, but right now it's still the draft off spec, and it fixes a bunch of stuff. We're linking to a blog post from Microsoft's side who's been working on this. If you want to geek out on auth, that's a good place to read. But also, the highlight is that you don't have to geek about auth because the spec makes it so much easier and secure out of the box. So I'm really excited about that one.
That's cool. That's cool. I got a few updates now to my MCP server I'm going to go make. And I've been working with the team and they're like, oh, try this, try that. So everyone's excited about all the new features. Now you can see them and use them instead of just using the MCP Explorer, Inspector, inside of it. Well, thanks to our raiders, Code with Sean, super appreciated over here. And also Frank, good to see you. Loving the new auth flow. Harald, let's bring on Cameron over here. How's it going, Cameron?
I'm right. Thank you. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. You're our actual first. We've only been doing this show for a little bit, but on this show, you're our first guest on. So it's an honor on our side to have you on because everyone on the Let It Cook show uses your MCP server. And I think both Pierce and I are sponsors, and we've been tweeting and doing stuff like that. So it's always been great to see. Is it Cook? It is
Cook. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. It's like Let It Cook with Cameron
Cook.
That really should just be your show. So we will, at the VS Code YouTube, we will give you the show name, Cameron, if you want to. If you want it, it's yours. Just let us know.
Excellent.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and then what you created and why you created this and what's happening.
Well, I'm Cameron. My background is mobile app development, and I work for a company called Not on the High Street, which is like an online e-commerce business. I'm an engineering manager. I lead up the mobile apps team, and I've been doing iOS myself for how long? 15 years. about that.
Yeah, it depends. Were you developing before the screen got larger, like taller, before the
exactly. 320, whatever it was, 280. When we first started, it was just like brilliant. I used to be a web developer before that, and I got really fed up of being a web developer. This is back in 2005. And I don't know if anybody watching this program is old enough to remember those days, but it was like IE5, IE6, and it was a real challenge. I was really fed up of trying to build software that had to work in about 1,000 different browsers and different incompatibilities between browsers and IE doing their own thing and iframes and whatnot. And I got really fed up with that. I thought, wow, iPhone came out in 2007. I thought this is really cool. Obviously, a year later they brought out the SDKs, and I was like, this is what I really want to do. And it looked great because it's like you get this phone out the box, got SDKs already there. It's all the building blocks are there. You just got to put it together and build something amazing with it. And it was great in the early days because it was just like the screen was just a fixed size. You didn't have to worry about you just hard code the pixel. You just hard code it.
It didn't matter.
No
rotation, no landscape.
No rotation, exactly. It's just that my view's full screen is 320 pixels, right? Or points. Well, it's pixel points because there was no high DPI screens either. So it was so simple, and it was brilliant. And obviously then it went, Apple diversified on the hardware side, and it ended up not quite in the same world. And things like interface, it went from interface builder to storyboard and then auto layout. I remember the auto layout came out. I was like, oh my god! I felt like I'd start again. I don't know what I'm doing. I was used to doing frame math, right? Just taking one frame, adding 20 pixels on or whatever, and all layout. And as soon as you think you've got a hang of something, Apple like to put something else out a year later. Auto layout, brilliant. Here's SwiftUI. Or it's like, combine, brilliant. So we adopted combine our application heavily, and then they brought obviously Swift concurrency out. I was like, oh, you're kidding. So that, that whole thing about becoming an app developer, because it was kind of like, it wasn't a moving landscape. It was kind of like this lovely kind of, that hasn't really turned out like that. So
they at least gave us some time in between releases.
Yeah,
They
exactly.
moved through, but now, it's like with everything moving so fast with AI and new updates to IDEs and new specs and like MCP stuff changing, like it's like a rapid pace. So I'm glad that I experienced the same thing you did for Windows and iOS and Android. Android is my Android was my main. I don't know why I decided to pick Android to be like my main focus for mobile for so long, because it wasn't that it was completely different. But
Java?
mostly with a little bit of Eclipse, and then mostly with C#. So with Mono for Android, and then Xamarin, then because I worked at Xamarin, and then now .NET MAUI. So all multi-platform here. But I've written my fair share of Objective-C, fair share of Swift, and actually built an entire set-top box with Java that called into a bunch of C# applications, which was cool. It was basically a Windows Media Center attachment in DVR days. So again, now I'm just dating myself because this is like 2008, 2009. So but I use like Xcode like every day when I'm building my applications and using their CLI and connecting and doing a bunch of stuff, usually from C#, but on occasion doing bindings and Swift and a whole bunch of stuff as well. Especially experimenting with some of the new APIs like the foundation models, which is fun. But you have built an XcodeBuild MCP.
I have.
Why did you do this?
Why did I build it? Yeah. Great question. I built it out of frustration, actually, if I'm completely honest with you. Actually, there's two reasons I built it. I'll let's be completely honest. So one reason was, our project was just, my employer, my project I'm working on. It's quite complex. It's using lots of packages, Swift packages, and Xcode it's just kind of can't handle it, basically. And I was getting all sorts of weird issues, phantom errors that don't even exist. You look at these errors can pop up on the screen, and you go and look at the build logs, and it's a completely one unrelated error. Yeah. And I was getting frustrated with Xcode bugs. It seems to got buggy in the last couple of years. I don't know if you noticed that, but I certainly found for our projects that we work on, Xcode was just getting worse and worse. And I saw kind of, I've always admired other editors, like vscode and the JetBrains editors and all the refactoring tools they have, and kind of just like, I want to be in that world. And and then I found out about SweetPad, which is like this VS Code extension that allows you to build iOS apps similar to what my MCP is doing. Sort of integrates it into the IDE. Great, I'm going to give that a go. Maybe I can switch away from Xcode entirely. And so I did, and it was pretty cool. And obviously then the AI thing has come along, and the agents, and AI fascinates me. Anything that makes my job easier or my life easier, I'm all for it, right? So I started playing around with the AI, chat interfaces and various tools, and like, great, I'm never going to code again. I'm just going to prompt everything, prompt my way to every solution. I was like, well, it's a bit annoying because you've got these VS Code extensions, which are great, but you've got the agent, which is great, but it's kind of sandboxed to a degree. So, like, how do I build on it? How do I build and how do I run simulators and manage all that kind of stuff? And when I first started using the agents, they got terminal access. They can run shell commands and things. So you're relying on the agent and the model to generate the correct commands. And what happens is, these models tend to be stuck in time a little bit, aren't they? They're kind of like, maybe a year out of date or something. And, especially with developer tools, the CLI arguments and commands change or new ones are introduced. And I was finding, in my experience anyway, when I was trying to just rely on it generating the correct commands, it would fail quite often. It would just get confused, or especially with like the destination argument on XcodeBuild. It was quite a complex argument. There's been different variations that's changed over the years, and it would just get that wrong every time. I was like, this is quite frustrating. There's ways you can mitigate that, using rules files and prompts and things, and slash commands and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah. But I was like, well, here's an opportunity here.
Yeah, totally.
So I was like, well, okay, if the MCP thing was kind of kicking off, I was like, okay, maybe I should try and build an MCP that does this. I mean, really, the issue isn't, it's not. I mean, it looks magical, but it really isn't. what my tool does is just call a bunch of other commands, but it the tool knows how to call them properly. It knows how projects work and how the tooling works. So it kind of takes that responsibility away from the agent and leaves it up to the MCP. You just work it out. You just build this thing. You run it in simulator. You tell me how to find simulators. And in my experience, anyway, I found it to work really well. And I was quite surprised, actually, how much reaction I got to my MCP. I wasn't expecting it. I've built things before and nobody even noticed. So.
Yeah.
I did have a famous tool I launched in mid-2000, which I'm not going to go into, but it was a JavaScript thing. That was my last bit of fame I got. So I built this, and it's been a really fun project. I build it I work full time. I've got 2 kids and a wife. I've got a lot of commitments, outside of work. So I build this in my spare time. It's a couple of hours every night.
Nice. Yeah.
Just before bed, I go on the computer.
I feel like
I
feel like I've seen you tweet about it more and more, especially around obviously Dove and all the new 26s and stuff that have all come out. And I was like, oh, man, Cameron's like, does Don stop working on this? And the first time, like you said, like I actually saw it. I think I was really amazed because I was like, Pierce. I saw Pierce do it. I don't know if it was at Build or something else. I was like, how are you doing that? Like, what's even happening? I'm like, what's even happening right now, right? Because I'm so used to the Maui and the Xamarin tooling doing all these magical bits and its thing, but he was doing Swift, and I was like, what does even happen? I was like, no, I didn't even know you could do this. And then I was like, I didn't even know you could do Swift in this. And he was like, show me the packages and like the setup. I was like, well, this is so cool. So it's been cool that you got such great reception. It makes sense, right? It's like, people want to use all sorts of different tools and streamline it there. Do you want to show it off? Do you want me to bring up your screen?
Totally.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. All right, you're up.
All right, cool. So I haven't got anything in mind. So we're just kind of vibe this and we'll just make it up as we go along. Let's hope the demo gods are favoring us today.
It's the best way to do it.
A lot of preparation for this live stream. So I'm gonna test this about 1,000 times. I actually ran into some issues. I had to go quickly go and fix these things. So all right, cool. So I'm going to just create a new folder here. I'm going to call it not very original, is it? I thought about doing to-do list app because there's not enough to-do list apps, is there, in the world? So
not enough weather apps either. Yeah,
there's not enough weather apps either.
Water hydration, weather apps, all of these coded apps exploding.
But I thought I'd pick something that it's going to have no problem building, right? All right, cool. So I've got this is the latest version of vscode, and I believe I'm all set up. I'm using new Sonnet 4 preview.
Very nice.
The reason I chose that is because it's in my experience, it works. It's really good at Swift UI and Swift. It's one of the better models, if not the best model at Swift UI. I find actually the different models have different kind of skill sets in a way, and that one is really, really good at Swift. So
it's very good at 3.7 and 4 are very good at tool calling as well.
Yes, exactly. And actually, Sonnet 4 is extremely good at tool calling. I've noted a lot less errors and mistakes, which is brilliant. Hence why I'm using it. All right, cool. So we've got an empty folder here I've just created. That's it. And we're just gonna literally vibe this from nothing.
Let's let it cook. I'm ready.
I'm not even. I've got no rules files. There's no prompt files. I'm just going to go really straight into this. Can you create me a cool? I don't know how it's going to decide what cool is.
You got to make it more. That's super modern, but not that modern. Just a little modern.
Yeah.
Liquid glass.
I think Cameron, you are on 26, right? Are you beta summaring right now?
I am on 26.
That's scary.
You know what? I've got 26. I've got it on all my, not my work device, obviously, but I've got it. This is my personal device. I'm running macOS. I'm dual booting, so I can if it all goes wrong, I just switch back to the other edition. Put it on my phone. It's my daily driver.
Wow, that's good.
It's surprisingly stable. I'm quite impressed. Anyway,
that's a true iOS dev. That's for sure.
I know, right? Well,
the first thing, do all my apps still work? That's a question.
What's the worst thing that can go wrong? That's kind of why I lose my iCloud data. I guess that happened a few years ago, didn't it? All right, cool. So I'm going to just kick that off and see how we get on.
All right.
And you have the MCP installed on your user settings.
I've got the MCP installed.
Oh, like on a system wide, you have it installed.
I have it. Yeah, I do. Yeah. Well, because I use it all the time.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
I will show how I can show how to install it later.
Yeah, I'll drop a link in. People can just read your.
Yeah, there's a really cool feature actually for VS Code now where you can click a link and it auto installs. So we can, which is from the read from like it's on my README, so you can just tap on it. Boom. All right, cool. So there we go. So it's going to detected my MCP. So I haven't told it. What's really clever about this is it's relying on the LLM, but I haven't told it to use my tool. I've just said build me an iOS app, and it's kind of identified from my MCP server and the tools that I provided to it and the tool descriptions that these fit the purpose, which is brilliant.
Wow.
So it's discovered that I've got a scaffold iOS project tool. That's what we want. So it's creating the input here, and it's basically filled in all the kind of arguments of the name of the app. Yeah. It's just decided on web app. Blah blah blah.
You can see more. You have a whole box.
Oh, okay, yeah, brilliant.
Wow. Oh, crazy.
So it's filled all that in. It's given it a project name. It's got the workspace path. It's made a bundle identifier for us. Some of these things you might have to change obviously before you release to the App Store.
I only ship .example. That's the only ones I ship. Like all my App Store registrations are only that. So
right. Yeah. And you could actually change it here. We do full.
Oh yeah, because you can just edit this before you send it off. It hasn't been sent yet. Yeah, you can just edit it.
Wow.
Right there.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Boom.
That is really cool.
That's why we bring on Harald, because he knows all.
Yeah, but we also do what you don't see right now. We actually apply the JSON schema for linting. So if you if you get it wrong, it has like red squiggles underneath.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Wow.
That is really cool. I did see that. You learn something every day, don't you? I didn't know that, and I actually was thinking I don't want to set iOS 17. Why is it a bit of that? Yeah, it's the thing that the models tend to go for older versions of things because that's where their training stops. Yeah. So I'm going to go for iOS 18, leave all the defaults, and let's go for it. So it's not malicious, of course. I actually quite like to go in YOLO mode. I don't know if it has one on VS Code. I use it on other tools, but
it does. Yeah,
it does. I haven't found it yet. You tell me what it is.
Yeah, I will, because I think that Burke tweeted it and I was like, I don't know, I can't find it.
It's always approved if you search the settings. But then the thing is, you couldn't do the editing, right? Like right now you can still go in. Yeah. That's why I'm torn. Like I wanted to always approve, but I also like fixing up tool calls to be better.
I want it to be like, I want it to auto approve unless it thinks that it shouldn't auto approve. Like like auto approve ish. Like sometimes, mostly.
Kind of confidence, something based.
A confidence meter,
which AI is never good at. Like AI never knows when it's not sure.
It's like, I decided these inputs, so I'm 100% confident that this is what you want. Look at all the code it just started. So this is just calling like the Xcode built-in stuff, or what's going on here?
Okay, so what's happened is, so my scaffold tool that has basically pulled down a template project, and what the tool, so this is essentially a template project, and it gets pulled down. I host it on GitHub, but the scaffold tool then just rewrites it all so that it matches those your requirements that are in the tool call. We use XConfig files to allow the agent to edit build settings easily, because if you do it in a project file, it's quite hard to manage. So this relies on XConfig files. And then another issue with Xcode projects is it's quite hard to insert new files into the compile sources, because again it goes into the project file, and again you don't really want your agent editing the Xcode proj file, which is going to be a disaster. So this uses the way I've done this is I've basically created. You get a skeleton Xcode project with a standard workspace project setup, but then it essentially has a where is it? Where's it gone here? There's a SPM package where basically all the app code will go, and because it's SPM, you don't have to worry about project files and all that kind of stuff, compile sources and things like that. So this is where the agent should be writing its code within this package, and then the project is just a wrapper around that.
Got it.
And that mitigates some of the issues around project files and all that kind of stuff. All right, so it's where are we at?
It's cooking. It's just this is why we called it Let It Cook, Cameron Cooke, because now it's just cooking. Now inside the .github folder, do you have like custom instructions and things like that you put in by default into it?
Yeah, there are. So there's a GitHub Copilot instructions here.
Ah, lovely.
It just tells it, you know, it's a modern thing. Don't use MVVM. It's a bigger debate.
Oh, come
on. Obviously, the user can tell it. I mean, this is just template. People can change this. It's opinion. It's very opinionated.
Beautiful.
It's based on my opinion.
Yeah.
But people can obviously change that. I kind of feel like people that are going to use this kind of tool probably haven't got a strong opinion of themselves yet.
Yeah, it's pretty minimal. That's a nice little tight little.
Yeah, I had a bigger one, but it struggled with it. Was struggling with it.
I like to start slim, and then what I like to do is I like to tell Copilot when I'm like, oh, like when I've really done something, like I'm like, oh, you know what, I really want it this way. Then I'm like, oh, can you go update it for me? You know what I mean? Yeah.
Now, one of the issues we've got at the moment is I've got a server called XcodeBuild server. Yeah, that's what it's called. And it's basically a bridge between the Swift LSP, language server protocol, and tools like vscode. So the lint is complaining here because it doesn't understand where the symbols are of this project. So what I need to do, this is actually from SweetPad, and you can generate what's called a build server config. If I do that and I select my workspace, what will happen is it will fix these linting issues.
Oh, cool.
Because it will create the relevant build server config with my workspace directory. Now you'll see that the underline on the observable there is gone.
Oh,
and now we've got symbols, and you should have tooltips and help and all the kind of usual things you'd expect. If you're using Xcode, you get all the kind of auto completion, you get all the kind of tooltips. You can click on things and find the symbols. It is loading. There we go. It's gone to there. So it's kind of really now everything I do in Xcode, I can now do in VS Code, right?
Yeah, that's great.
There's a couple of linting errors because they're legitimate, and that's what I think it's currently working on. I don't know. So it's now. Let's see what it's doing here. Let's talk about Mac OS.
And it's kind of nice because you were doing stuff and fixing stuff while it was investigating as well, right?
Yeah, on with it. Yeah. I mean, it will make mistakes and it will iterate until it gets somewhere. No. Sometimes it will go down the wrong path, and you sort of have to steer it back. That's kind of why I think you still need to have some knowledge about software development and probably Swift programming to a degree. Because when it gets stuck, then you kind of have to steer it back. But I mean, this should carry on.
Trying to build. Look at that.
It's going to get listed. So now it's called in my list sims tool, and that will list all the simulators. And it will find probably a booted one, like this one here.
Nice.
So let's see this. Let's see what this is doing. It's quite hard on my screen because my font is so big.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's all right. No, don't worry. So now it's going to try and find the project file.
You can zoom out one if you want to. That's fine.
It's all right.
You can command minus.
Okay, and now we're doing this schemes. Now it's trying to find the schemes in the project. Build schemes.
You basically fixed linting as it was building. So because if it edits code, it will look for errors. Because we fixed linting later, probably it did some rounds of like, oh, there's errors. I tried to fix them. And now
exactly. And actually the building is the best thing it can do, because when it builds it, it'll get legitimate compiler errors, not linting errors, which aren't necessarily compiler errors. So this is the main event now. So it's going to try and build the thing. So it's gone for quite a detailed weather app this time. I did it before. It's just like one file. This time it's done a really big, complex one. So we'll see how well this works. Okay, right. So
let me actually run in parallel so I can.
You're trying to do
my own weather app.
So there we go. It's failed to compile, but it's got to do with Swift concurrency, of course.
Classic.
Any seasoned iOS developer, no, that's obviously going to be the build issue. And the output, what we do is we return standard error because there's legitimate errors in there, and then the compiler errors. So it's going to read that, and it's going to try and fix those issues and build again.
And this is where, for example, you could obviously change each command to auto do it, right? So instead of doing YOLO for all of them, you can do auto approve. We'll call it by the setting so people can find it in the setting. You could have it so you can do the drop down instead of hitting continue every time. You could just say, no matter what, just keep building. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it'll keep them automatically.
Where
so.
are we at here?
Yeah, from the drop down there, you can do.
Okay, so I think it's built it.
Oh, nice.
Because it's so it's built, and now it's trying to get the bundle ID. So it's now it's trying to find the build artifacts. So it's trying to find the .app file. So there's an MCP. There's an MCP tool for that, of course. And then it should try and get the. It's going to boot the simulator now. Here we go.
So everything that it was doing, from finding simulators, booting simulators, building the project, looking at the errors, and you put the errors in the inline, so it's actually trying to, like, you know, it doesn't, you know, it can pull up problems and things like that, but it's just pulling them up right and all in line, basically. Wow.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm going to simulate up so you can see that. So it's now going to install the app. So let's see how this goes. There we go. Look at that. And we haven't written one line of code. This is proper vibing, right?
Super vibes. And you got that liquid glass. Look at that app.
Right.
Super glassy.
There we go. Look at that.
Wow. It's for you, Harold, right there, San Francisco.
I mean, who knows if that's real?
Wait, that's on your app, right? That's the built-in one.
No, that's a real one. Yeah.
There we go. So we just built that whole thing without. I mean, that is true vibe coding, isn't it? And what's it doing here? So now it's going to open. It's done that. Sim's already open, so it won't do anything. Let's see if it does anything else. It's pretty cool because there are some other tools that on the MCP, like it's got screenshot tools, which I think it's going to do now. But there we go.
Oh wow!
It's going to try and do a screenshot to keep them scrolling up for some reason. That's quite annoying. See what we've got an output there. There we go.
Whoa, cool.
It's got a screenshot and it's now describing what it can see. So it's validating its own work. Like you know, a developer they would build the app, they'd run it and look at it and go, does it look like I expected it to be? It's going to do a swipe for some reason. So it's just scrolled down the screen. It's done that without a single command. The only prompt we've given it was, can you create me a cool weather app that is super modern for iOS?
Wow. It's
gone ahead and built the whole thing. It's tested it. It's screenshots. It's checked its own work. It's then tried to interact with it. I have no idea what that means.
You found a new error. Sorry about that.
Now you got an error. Perfect. That's good.
I have never seen that one before. Okay.
Let's see if it can do anything else.
Yeah. And like a proper developer, continue. Just keep
continue.
going.
Yeah, except Control Delete, right? It's just
you knew what you were doing. Keep it going.
Yeah. It's going to do a gesture here. I'm quite sure what it's trying to do. I couldn't do that one.
I will say I was using the Playwright MCP, and Claude 4 was like, I'm gonna click on everything, and I'm gonna do everything. I don't care what it is. I'm gonna call every command, and that's I was like, okay, Claude, calm down. So that's cool. Look at that, nice.
Yes, it's swiping. I think it's. I'm not sure why it wants to swipe. It's gonna, I think it's trying to see the bottom of the screen, isn't it? Let's see if it's done that now.
Oh, I see. So it's like trying to there you go.
There we go. It blows my mind. I wrote it, right? I mean, because it's basically. I mean, what really surprised me was, I built this. I built a bunch of discrete tools without a real vision of how it all going to come together. And I was really surprised by how well the agents and the language models just kind of like know how to use them. There's no instruction anywhere in the code. There's no rules file that says go and test it or swipe it or click it. It's just gone. Oh, great! I can swipe. I'm going to swipe it and view the bottom of this thing and take a screenshot and whatnot.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it has a really good understanding of like the end-to-end development flow. Like
exactly.
What I struggle with a bit, because when I tell it to like just make a cool project and then I want to show off the cool project, it starts writing the README too. It's like, no, wait, I'm just doing a cool project here. Just now, like you have to write a README, but it goes like full circle to like, you asked me to create a project. Like that's what you do when you create a project. You write a README, right? So Claude is really in that boat of I'm gonna do it.
Totally. So now what it's doing is it's basically, here's a tool we haven't seen before. This is the Describe UI tool. It gives you a kind of an accessibility view of the views in the views that are visible, and their coordinates and their frames and things. And I can't take credit for this. This is actually Facebook's work. This is part of the IDB library, which is open source. But it basically gives you insight into the view hierarchy, and it allows the UI interaction tools to know exactly where the buttons are to tap them. Where's the coordinates for that button? What's there? And it knows, so it can actually accurately tap them. Sometimes I find it will take a screenshot and it will just try and guess where that is. It will just make up some coordinates based on what it can see. And then you have to sort of nudge it. I'll go and use the describe tool, because that's going to give you much better results than the screenshot tool. Yeah, I don't know. I think what it's doing now. So it can't find navigation bar with a search button. I'm assuming it thinks it wrote one. Let me scroll back up to top axis. So it's done that. It's taken a screenshot.
Yeah, that's Claude's fault if it didn't do it.
I mean, I didn't even know there was a. Yeah, I've had this before. I don't know if it's just going to fix it. Yeah. Run into a.
It might be a context window thing. You might have to.
Yeah, I might have to. So I might have to start again. So we can just do that, can't we? Sometimes you hit a context limit, don't you? You have to start again. But yeah, I mean that's the MCP. So in terms of like capability, you can obviously it can do Mac apps as well. It can do iOS. It can do device as well. So you can it can build in your device. That's hard for me to demo.
Does it handle provisioning profiles and certs? Come on, Cameron. You know I gotta ask. Do I have to enter my credentials and log into my Apple developer?
That'd be years of work to get that working, wouldn't it? I'm not even sure Apple know how that works. Yeah, no, it does. So it doesn't do deployment or sort of. It won't do anything for App Store.
Yeah,
you'll need to do that yourself, and it is something think about. For me, this tool is about rapidly prototyping ideas, playing around, just building stuff. You get to a point where you probably will need the Xcode just to get it into the App Store, just to do that archive. You can run it on your phone. So one of the cool features is that you can run on your phone wirelessly as well. So if you've got wireless debugging enabled, it will just build onto your phone. The MCP can do that. And which is I think is important when you're testing. You want to test on the physical device. The performance characteristics are quite different. And there's obviously some features that just don't work in simulators. Obviously, the UI interaction tools only work on the simulator, so that's quite useful for when you're sort of developing, you're testing, you're iterating with the agent. It's going to be using simulator, but when you want to get a feel for how it feels, even though it feels there twice, you test on your device and play with it. And also we can also get to like tests and run the tests.
Yeah, what can you show the list of tools as well? Because I imagine you can create tool sets too. I've just been kind of exploring that, like custom modes. Like there's a new thing called custom modes too. And actually this might be kind of fascinating for you to include in your template, is you can do custom modes in your GitHub folder, and you can say this is the like iOS mode. So you can say only include these tools. So you could have an iOS mode, a Mac mode, and then basically you can say only include these tools for this mode. So you can have an iOS dev mode. So instead of it being agent, I can show this too, like afterwards. I basically have a playwright mode where I'm like, okay, if I'm doing playwright end-to-end testing, I don't need my Perplexity server and my GitHub server and for it to try to look at all the tools. I say just use the tools that are in here. So you can define these sets, and that's just a markdown file as well. And then there's Harald, what are tool sets? What are tool sets? Those like the other thing, right?
Yeah, if you scroll all the way down, you have some. Oh, you already have some there. Tool sets. Yeah, you already went full in. Yeah, tool sets are really just basic combination of like quick access stuff that you want to use. This is like task specific combination of things it needs. And I know, and that helps you to kind of refine a bit of how the AI thinks about tools. Otherwise, it's like all the tools. Like no, just these tools, right? And then you can also use these in prompts. So if you create a new prompt, you can say tools and then use this tool set, which if you run the prompt, it actually will select down to just the tools. So it's a lot easier for the LM to figure out like, I don't have to call 1 out of 100 tools. I can only pick from 25 or 20.
So is it a way to, have a set of tools from different MCP servers kind of grouped together?
Yeah.
So
like
just
like a workflow, right?
Yeah. Brilliant. Very cool.
Yeah. Also, because this gets really long as well as you have more tools, it's more built-in stuff, and then it's just nice to just I want to pick this one and not the rest.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest I guess problem with my MCP server is just the sheer number of tools, and that becomes a problem.
Yeah,
it breaks the context window, and obviously you can untick them, but that requires a user, to go through. Yeah, you kind of want it just to work. You want to install it and just get on with it. And I'm trying to think of ways of using, maybe having a single tool that you give it the requirements and it goes and works out which tool to use. Agent within an agent kind of thing. But like, it's a tricky one to solve, isn't it? I had to diversify my tools. I didn't really want I've got 5 or 6 build tools, because if I had one generic build tool that did both iOS and macOS and simulate and device, the LLM would then it'd make mistakes in terms of the tool calling, because there was too many. You choose maybe iOS platform and then put in a macOS simulated device or something. It would just you'd have build settings in the tool call that were mutually exclusive, but you couldn't enforce that. So like by having specific, Mac workspace build tool and Mac project build tool, it solved that problem, but it meant I ended up having 4 times as many tools as I really want. Yeah. And it's something I need, I really want to improve. And it's that's probably my next kind of biggest thing. How can I solve that? Because it's each IDE and each editor has a different way of handling that. Some of them have, the ability to untick some tools. Some have tool sets like vscode, other ones don't. And it's kind of like, how do you make it work everywhere? Yeah. That's the challenge, isn't it? I've got like 81 tools in my MCP.
Yeah. So if you look at the spec, there's a few things like this dynamic tool discovery, which again is a client thing that not many have, but you could actually adapt it based on what the user actually has open and currently does. So you can only offer like running the simulator once you actually have, or when doing the swiping test, once it actually is simulator open. Like you could bind it to like the state of what's actually currently running, what you know about running. But I think what's even more interesting for you is like, one is like something that works everywhere. You could say like, what do you want to only enable iOS tools and like not enable Mac tools, like even from just like a command line argument or like environment variable. But
I did do that. You can opt out. You can opt in. So basically by default it's everything, but if you put an environmental variable in, you can say it will only allow those tools to be discoverable. But it's cumbersome, isn't it? In config files and
you have to think about it, right? You have to like know up front, and you have to
I don't want to think, Harald. I don't want to think.
I know, but the other one is roots, and that's the MCP thing that's weirdly named, and this doesn't have as much adoption right now. But basically, it gives us the MCP server as it initializes. The client can tell it this is the folder the user has opened, and for vscode, that's the current workspace. So you could actually say like, oh, you have an iOS project open, so you're gonna enable the iOS apps, and then and that's like a nice progressive enhancement, because you could say like, oh, we don't have roots, you get all the tools. If you have roots, I can detect you have iOS, and maybe it's an empty folder. Like maybe you even detect like this scaffolding project you don't want to even enable when somebody's open, right? So cool. you can kind of whittle it down, and that's something because you only get it after the initialize call. Like you could adapt the tools dynamically, or just like the original tool list just gets shorter. So there's a few things you can do.
Is that fully supported in VS Code?
Yeah, so roots is the spec version. I think in the SDK, in the TypeScript SDK, there's a list roots call on the underlying server object. So I'll make a PR.
Yeah. Oh, we did have a few cool questions. A lot of people, Tempura, like that's so cool, looks great, super helpful from Zach, which is awesome. I was actually thinking about this for a while from Janik. For people doing this work from a Windows machine, like I'm a .NET MAUI developer, so I can just like connect to my Mac, or there's magical .NET MAUI C# stuff. But I actually had this idea right now. So you need a Mac, obviously, because this is running Xcode. But if you were on a Windows machine, that's your primary driver, you could actually just connect VS Code over SSH to your Mac, right?
Wow.
And then what's going to happen, kind of like a code space. So if you're on Windows, which is like my daily driver, because I'm just a Windows guy, but I have my Mac, Mini M4 Pro sitting here, right? my goal would never. My goal is I'm not a Mac OS person. For desktop, I am for laptop. I'm very strange, but I love Windows. So like I basically can open VS Code, say connect to my Mac over SSH, and what's happening then is everything is happening on my Mac. Now, I haven't tested this, but I'm imagining if I actually install the XcodeBuild server, MCP server, those commands will be running on my Mac. Now the simulator would open on my Mac.
Is that a thing you can?
Yeah, see that thing on the bottom left? See that little under the settings? The tiny little bottom left in VS Code.
Here.
Yep, tap that. Look at that.
Wow.
Yeah,
So,
I know. Yeah.
Okay, that blows my mind. So does that mean you could then all the shell commands, terminal commands, they would run on the host, the target machine?
It's yeah. Think of it as basically at that point, VS Code is a shell, and everything inside of it that's happening is just happening in the other one. So what's cool is like you can also connect to a remote GitHub code space, and like you're using it on your machine, but everything is happening in the cloud. Just like if you had a dev container, it's happening it's in the container, right? It's in the machine, it's in the computer. That's in it, right? So like you could SSH. I haven't tried it, but I'm going to try this like this afternoon because why wouldn't I? But I'm pretty sure that would just work. You just SSH into it. I'm pretty sure we have a video, Harald, somewhere on the YouTube. I think Olivia just did.
I'd love to see that.
Yeah,
that's amazing. So you just does GitHub have Mac OS host? It does, doesn't it? So you can. I don't know how well the simulator will work on a head.
If it was a code space, I think they're all Linux boxes.
Yeah. The actions have macOS runners, but it wouldn't help here.
Correct. Yeah. So
you have like a Mac.
Hasn't got that set up.
Yeah.
I'm curious. There need to be a Mac somewhere, wouldn't there?
Yeah, I'm curious. We'd have to investigate the coding agent on GitHub. Like what I'm curious of is like if you were to assign it tasks, if you configured this MCP in the coding agent on GitHub, you can also have a custom. You can basically, for the coding agent on GitHub, you can basically have a file that's like, here is how I want the environment for the coding agent. That's, agentically just going to do it in the background. So like, for example, like I'm like, oh, install this version of .NET 9 for my project, right? So it knows if it doesn't have the latest, or maybe I'm using a preview. I'm curious if you can say, make sure that this is also running on Mac OS with this version of Xcode, because it's just basically an action script. And then what would be cool is like you could check in this code, and then you could say, okay, here's an issue, go implement this thing, have the coding agent go do it. And then you could say, and take screenshots using the XcodeBuild MCP. It would install your MCP server on that PR. I'm just going crazy here, just thinking about the magic here. And then it would just like put that into the PR automatically for you. I got to test this out because if that works, that'd be so cool.
Sounds like a bunch of feature requests though. Needs to work. Cool. Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. That'd be mind blowing, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Let's see if we had any other questions here.
Just on the Windows one. I mean, I think it's tricky, isn't it? I mean, obviously, without having a Windows machine, a Mac somewhere, there are tools that claim to be able to build iOS apps on Windows that essentially bypass Apple's own tool chain. It's at some point I might look into that. It's not like I don't get a lot of demand for that, and obviously, I only spend a couple of hours a night on this. So, but it definitely interests me. I mean, if I get it working everywhere, it'd be amazing, right? But if you can tunnel in, even better.
Nice. And we have a few people saying that it looks like maybe there's someone saying some errors with some port settings or something like that, it says. And then good question for you, Harald, here on the where is it, the custom modes. So like we had talked about like custom modes. So right now, like you have ask, edit, and agent, right? So if you actually do this for me, go into your .github folder and create a new subfolder called chat modes.
Yeah. Wait, do it easier.
Wait. Harold's going to tell you how to do it correct. Okay.
Click on the three dots and in the chat window to the right. No, to the right. Oh, yeah. So there we go. And configure modes. So that's faster. Make a new one and then put it into this project, or you use a full project. You can move it around later, and then that could be what do you want to do, James? Like iOS?
iOS build maybe, or maybe just iOS. Keep it simple.
iOS,
yeah. So then you save that file. And then you
now
can
use configure tools. You can basically pop in which tools you actually want to use. So if you
see that?
configure tools on the, I don't know where to open the preview. That's might be your.
So these are the kind of MCP tools.
Yeah, but don't even edit it there. Click on that configure tools tooltip right above it.
Yeah. Nope. Oh, sorry, there. Yeah.
There it is.
Oh wow. Okay.
Oh, wow. And then
so you can now use your tool sets that you had on the top, or you pick from whatever you have here. Yeah. Boom. Tool sets plus.
Oh, you did okay.
Oh, you did. Yeah, that's our quick pick thing. You have to hit. Okay.
Boom. Now the other thing I would do is go back to configure tools. So I would also do the built-in ones. So the built-in ones, so that way you can do code-based changes. It'll know how to do now all the normal, changes in code base. And like you might actually like what I have is, so I call it Copilot core. So I go in and I uncheck like notebooks. I'm like, you never need to care about notebooks. I'm not doing notebooks work. So I uncheck notebooks. So my agent mode, my core this is my core, right? So you could go and configure the tools, even the built-in ones, and say boom, 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 boom. So now when you do work, it'll only, so now next to Claude Sonnet 4 in the bottom right on the agent dropdown, which is barely there, boom, custom. Yeah. So you could have like a planning mode. You could have a deep research mode. You could have an iOS mode. You could have like a tester mode. So imagine that would be cool. Is like only test, right? So iOS tester, and that could do all the testing stuff. So, and you could then disable all of the code editing to be like, no, I only want you to test stuff. I don't want you to do anything else.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. And how is that different from tool sets? It feels like quite similar.
They're kind of a combination. Like this now, if you maintain it over time, you would maybe add, like, it's more about the description as well and the other things. So the tools is one layer, but you can now, anything you write below is actually like more of a custom instructions.
Oh, I see.
Or like a system prompt on how to work in iOS. So you could use it.
Yeah. So exactly. So underneath this, it's not just that file. Yeah. Like you can just write stuff, right? You could say, when in this mode, I only want you to focus on, it's like a custom instruction. So it'll combine the Copilot instructions, the custom instructions, plus these instructions as well to do stuff. So for example, like I have one that is a playwright mode, and I'm like, hey, I want you to only generate this type. I use page, blah, blah, blah setting. So for example, instead of shoving everything into your Copilot instructions for like testing, you can be like, no, this is my testing mode, and this is how I test my apps.
That's cool. That's cool, isn't it? I mean, it's basically like fine-tuned agents, isn't it? Yeah, my testing agent.
That's a better name. That's a better name.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Definitely gonna use
that. Anything else you want to show, Cameron? This is awesome. I also like, this is our favorite part of the show, by the way, is that everybody does things about 20 different ways. So I'm just like, oh, create the folder, do the thing. And then Harold's like, oh no, just like hit that button. And I'm like, oh. And then Pierce would be like, no, hit this magical key command that does ridiculousness for you. Know what I mean? Something like that. So
yeah, I mean, we could do a quick Mac OS app, couldn't we?
If you want to.
One thing we haven't. I mean, obviously, I've scaffolded entirely new iOS app, but it obviously can work with existing projects. It doesn't have to work with this layout. It's just this is pure vibe coding, right? We're cooking, but you can obviously work with an existing app and use XcodeBuild MCP just to kind of, help you with your workflow. I've actually got have I got it on here? Let me have a look. XcodeBuild MCP. In the actual MCP itself, which was obviously open source, I've got some sample projects. It's a little calculator that I've vibe coded. So this is an existing project. We can go, can you run this and test it? That's what we're going to say. See how we get on with that.
And this is good because so people don't know, like I do this all the time with like Node apps because I never remember is it npm, is it dev, is it build? I don't know. And this is cool because normally what it would try to figure out is probably what the command is, right? But here you can guide it for listing the simulators and running and building and doing stuff as well.
Yeah. So one thing Yeah.
The first prompt I created was /run in my Xcode playground, because it kept saying like, okay, now we made changes, like run this and build it, and then like, oh, just /run.
There
Oh,
you go.
cool.
I think this is better than Apple's one. Why do you think? So this is, it's going to take a screenshot now. Let's see what it does here.
Loves to take screenshots. Claude loves to take
It
screenshots.
loves to take screenshots. It's quite
Loves
annoying actually, because I ask it to do like UI testing and manual testing, and it will take a screenshot, like I said earlier, and just try and hit things just at random. I'm like, well, oh, there we go, got it right.
Oh, nice. Yeah, describe it.
Describe UI. It's actually using the right tool. The screenshot tool has a hint. Actually, one of the things with the MCP tools is you can provide on the output. You can you can't actually see it on here, but on the output you can have like just give it text that you can output, and I put hints in all the tools. So the next thing you might want to do is this. So on the screenshot tool, I say, if you're trying to do UI work, use the describe tool, because it's better for getting precise coordinates.
Nice.
You're trying to give it kind of hints on how to do things. So there it goes. Type in number 1.
Ah, all right.
This is your own little QA, isn't it? I mean, it's a bit slow because it has to do one command at a time. I'm actually gonna. I'm actually working on
Always allowed.
an enhanced version of the UI library to do sort of batch interaction. So you could essentially do this in one go with timing delays. So you better say do this tap this.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And send it in one go, and it will just do it. As opposed to backwards and forwards, because you're going, going backwards and forwards all the time between the MCP, the agent, and the LLM, which is obviously slow, isn't it? Because you're making all those jumps.
Yeah. No, that
but
makes
still,
sense.
I mean, like, it's not costing me any time. I'm just sitting here doom scrolling on Twitter, or whatever, like while it's doing my testing for me. But I think that's pretty cool. And I actually vibe coded that calculator app as well.
That was very nice. I like the little animation when you hit the equal sign. That's cool.
Yeah, it does little change. I think it should do an error one as well. Should we try and divide by 0?
We just landed those try again buttons. That doesn't make it so much better to have these hiccups.
Yeah, that one looks like some firewall setting or something.
Well,
I think someone in the chat was saying some port setting, perhaps. So.
To be fair, I am running on macOS 26.
That is, you are running fiery hot bits. That is for sure. Yes.
And then in terms of like, because you also do. If I just close the whole thing, if we do, let's do another one. Let's close the sim. Okay. Let's do a to-do app. I'm not very original with these ideas, am I? I can go create a cool, simple to-do app for Mac. So get on with that. And again, there's a scaffold tool for Mac projects. Let's see if we're going to do it. So
and
it's
of
not
course, it's like you could always call the command manually too, but in this case, it's it's like that. Scaffold, create, do the thing. They're pretty smart. I feel like often what I tell people is like I was doing this video with someone from Progress Telerik, and they have a cool like coding agent assistant, and I was like, just tell it to fix it. It'll figure it out. Like I'm like, it's smart. It'll do it. Just give it a little bit of context, and then I was like, copy the error in. It'll do it. And then Sam was like, oh, it did do it. I was like, yeah, you just got to sometimes you got to trust it a little bit more, and then watch it and trust. That's what I say.
Yeah. I'm just coming from working on the MCP server. We already mentioned like one trick, which I really like, that one tool kind of gives hints on like what the LM should do next, which I think really shows off in your end-to-end flow of like scaffold, building the app, I'm gonna run it, I'm gonna test it. Like it's not just Claude doing it proactively, but it's also you nudging it, right? Any other things you found that make it really effective?
No, well, not really. I mean, that's the main one, and obviously when I had to diversify the tools, that really helped with the context, with the tool calling accuracy, because it was just like the tools are very focused now to specific workflows. I mean, I think that's where it works quite well, because if you didn't have MCP, XcodeBuild MCP, it wouldn't necessarily know that I need to get a bundle ID, or I need to go and get the simulator ID, or whatever it needs to do that build command, it will fumble, it will do something in the wrong order, whatever. So those hints, like each tool has a bunch of hints at the end of it. And the response, it says, you've built the app. Maybe the next thing you need to do is get the bundle ID, because you're going to need that if you want to run it in the simulator, or and it gives it. And I put in the tool call name as well, so I even tell it what the tool is. Because in the way, it's fascinating, isn't it? Because you're writing, an MCP. You're writing these tools to talk to this AI, but you're talking to it like you talk to a human, right? It's not a programmatic interface. It's kind of like you're writing code, and it's going to be deterministic. You just have to sort of tell it like you tell a developer you're sitting next to. This is what you need to do next. And essentially that's why. And I think this works quite well, because it kind of, as you say, Harald, it leads the agent or the AI through the steps it needs to do for those common workflows, as opposed to them just being there and it has to sort of work it out for itself, and it will probably get it wrong. It does mean, sometimes it's actually quite tricky to fine tune those hints, because you've got to try and think of all different scenarios, different types of projects. You don't want to emphasize too much on a simulator, because maybe the user wants it on the device, or it boots up on the simulator and they want it on the device and whatever. But it works quite well in testing. It's just going to build. It's going to build it here. Are we going to get a to-do app?
We got the workspace file. Yeah. So my favorite part is that you were like, create a very simple to-do app, and then I was reading the output, and it's like, let me create bar charts and graphs. It was like, you know what? That tertiary color, I'm going to update that for it. It's like, -1 line, +1 line. I'm like,
yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, this is cool. So now it knows it's a Mac app, so it's calling the Mac stuff.
Yeah, it's actually made a slight error here, in that it's called the build tool. Oh no, it hasn't. No. So what's it doing here? We're waiting
for the build. So now it's building the app, basically. Did you try Mac apps on 26 in the last week?
Yeah, I did. I did a basic one.
And how have you found it as far as like building and deploying and getting user feedback? Like, is everything on GitHub, how that flow been going for you?
It's going well. Yeah. So I've got GitHub issues open, pull requests are open. I've totally welcome contributions. It's just me in my spare time. I'd love people to, if anyone wants to help out, I'd love that. The more the merrier. In terms of, I've been working on it to try and get the whole sort of tool set that I want there. I think it's kind of almost there now. I think the next focus for me is around how do I manage the number of tools, the sheer number of tools, so that it works across all different IDEs and editors and things. I've got some other wacky ideas I won't go into now, but I think there's definitely improvements we can make and tweaking and whatnot. But yeah, it's all on issues. I've got I also have Sentry, which people can opt out of. It's in my README, so I collect so any kind of errors that happen, I capture in Sentry, so I can see kind of trends. It's kind of, building software is really hard if you don't have any kind of user feedback.
Yeah.
You need that kind of feedback to help you sort of focus on what you need to fix and what the priorities are. So having the Sentry logs, it helps me view kind of what the key trends, what the key issues people are running into. So that's really helpful. And then on social media and just user channels, I get feedback on there. I'm actually quite surprised how many people have messaged me and said, "Look, this is my first Swift app." I'm like, wow, you chose to use, you chose to do it in using the MCP. So that's really cool. So it's great to see. The thing I love about AI is it's really lowered the barrier to entry, and I think for me this is where it really shines. It allows anybody to kind of has an idea to sort of visualize their idea and build their app. I think it's really exciting. So anything that makes that easier, I think it's a really, really good thing. I don't know what's happened here, so I
might have to stop it.
How do we stop it though? Can we stop it? Stop.
No, you can just hit the stop button on the bottom.
Oh, down here, yeah. Should we try again?
And then try to build and run. Yeah.
Try and run the app.
Let's see if it does.
It was never going to work perfectly.
Shut those progress notifications.
There we go.
Hey, not quite sure what I can do the first time. Slight layout issues there.
But it looks like Claude thinks it's beautiful, so that's all.
Yeah.
No, it is everything 26. So who knows? Yeah. Oh wow, that's cool.
Is it going to add this? Can you test by adding a to do? All right, no can't. No can't because it hasn't got that capability. Completely forgot about that. Yeah,
it's going to tell you how to do it though, so that's nice.
Yeah. So we can.
Oh, that's beautiful. Nice.
I know, shopping. Does it work? Oh, look at that. Look at that.
Wow, that's pretty good.
It's the progress bar, the graphs.
Yeah.
Wow, animation.
Yeah, I mean, it needs a bit of work, doesn't it?
Yeah. But pretty close. It feels like maybe the insets are just upset. But yeah.
I mean, the thing is, you just tell it that. Oh, there we go. I think it's the way it's aligning it is quite. And this could even be a bug on macOS 26. But what I would do now is I'd iterate. I say, okay, this is great. Great as a first start. But what we need to improve it. Maybe I don't like these labels being like that. But yeah, so you can do Mac OS, can do iOS. Technically, it can do WatchOS and tvOS and VisionOS. I haven't tested that. I haven't got a VisionOS. Anyone wants to buy me one, I'll test it for them.
People can sponsor on GitHub. I'm a sponsor, so definitely check it out. I've dropped links inside of the YouTube and the Twitch, and you can also buy Cameron a coffee as well. Do you have a favorite coffee? Yeah. Do you have Harald was sipping? Are you sipping tea, Harald, or are you sipping coffee? Would you make you made a fancy drink?
Coffee.
Just normal coffee, but in a fancy
Costa Rica.
This was a Guatemalan that I roasted, so I roast my own coffee. Wow. So that's next level. Back in the day, everyone roasted their own coffee. They were letting the beans cook. You can do it yourself, just like we let this code cook. Cameron, thank you so much for coming on and showing this off. This was awesome to see it live and also talk through the code. Make sure to definitely check this out if you're doing any work in open issues. I know Harald has some few open issues and pull requests as well, and so all sorts of goodies as well. So Cameron, I really appreciate you coming on and showing everything off.
Yeah, I loved it.
That's awesome.
Thanks
so much, Cameron.
Thanks for hosting me.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in. If you have any questions, we'll put links in the show notes. Check out the MCP server for XcodeBuild. And if you have other things you want highlighted, reach out to me, Harald, Piers, Burke. Let us know if you're building cool stuff. So we want to see it. But that is going to do it for this Let It Cook. Come back next week. We have some other special guests that Burke is getting on, talking about, I think it's Nicholas. He's going to talk about how his workflow has evolved over time, working with the different agents, planning modes, and a whole bunch of good stuff. But that's going to do it. So make sure you like, subscribe, do all the stuff, and we'll see you on the next Let It Cook.